Within this section, we talked a lot about how to organize words into sentences and sentences into a paragraph. We have talked a lot about technical part of putting words together at some lower levels, at some more elementary levels of writing, at words level, at sentence level, and sometimes at paragraph level. But from now on, onward and forward, we need to talk something larger, bigger, grander, more grand. We are going to discuss the features of longer units of texts, such as paragraphs, how paragraphs should be organized within itself, so that paragraphs after paragraphs, paragraphs with paragraphs are organized into a passage. Thusly, we are moving forward. We are moving not only forward, but also higher, to higher level of texts, larger levels of texts, longer units of texts. And they all have the similar problems, the so-called coherence and cohesion problems. Let's stick to the word clarity, coherence, and understanding. Okay? Although they may refer to totally different things. First, let's talk about introduction. The introduction part of a text is unavoidable, is indisposable. Any article, any text should have a proper beginning. Why should a text have an introduction beginning part? And more importantly, what role should this introduction, this beginning part of the text play? Any idea? Because reading is hard. Reading the contents apart from entertaining contents. We can read very easily comic strips. We can read very easily, depending on your personal taste, depending on your personal preferences. For example, for me, I can read sci-fi fictions very, very quickly and without getting tired for long periods of time. For hours, I can read them as long as I can. My interest is properly aroused by the text. If I'm not interested, then reading then again becomes a very slow process that is not very productive. Reading entertaining content can be hard, and not to mention reading, say, professional texts, say, philosophical, literary texts that cover more abstract, more metaphysical subject matters. Invariably they create mental, cognitive barriers for readers across the spectrum. So not every reader can be as interested in the subject as an author does. As an author, as someone who creates a text, I cannot expect all my readers can be as interested as I am. No. In fact, you should expect the contrary. People, the general readers, they are not interested in your writing. They care nothing, in fact. They care nothing about the subject matter you want to talk about, normally speaking, not to mention your own personal writing on such subject matters. So as authors, we have a very important job at the very beginning of a text, that is to grasp, to get hold of the reader, as if by force, to hold them down, to pin them down, to occupy their attention as longer, as deeper as possible. Make the readers interested. Make them care. The key word is care. Make them care about what you are saying and what you're going to say. A more formal vocabulary is used. The word is to motivate. To motivate the readers so that they care. They want to read carefully and more and longer. Your introduction of your text, the beginning part of your text, should fulfill this task. In the meantime, let the reader spend less effort. Let them know what to expect in different parts of your text. For example, at the beginning of the sentence, the readers should expect this. At the end, they need to expect that. And at the end of the paragraph, in the beginning of the paragraph, things should be expected. If the readers can expect what they're going to read, they spend less effort in general. Okay, so in the beginning, in the introduction part, when we are trying to introduce a topic that may not be very interesting, say a topic on quantum physics, not many people are interested in understanding such an abstract, such a dry subject matter. So, in the beginning part, we have to do a series of things in order to persuade the reader and make them believe that the topic on hand, even though it is hard to access, it's hard to understand, it still is very important. It has personal importance to the reader, him or herself. We have a persuasion job on hand in the very beginning, in the introductory part of a text. So stating problems in the introduction is very important. The key word is, don't imagine your readers are clever, are knowledgeable, are interested. Don't expect that. But rather, you should do another thing. Another thing is giving them problems. Let them see the problem. Let them take a personal stake in that problem, as if their personal interest is jeopardized if they don't understand the text, if they don't understand the topic you are talking about at the moment. Let them care, basically. Take a photo picture of this example, 1A, and take a photo picture of the next, 1B. There are both introductions about a passage on drinking problems in American universities. Take a look. Now, make comparisons and tell me which one is better written, which one poses a problem or poses problems properly. I'll give you 3 minutes. They're long, a bit long, consisting, this one, for example, 1B consists 5-6 sentences. Takes 2 minutes to read this paragraph. Trust your feeling. Trust your gut feeling. Okay? Try to have that feel. The second one, 1B is better. There are reasons. The reasons that which are totally different than yours. 1B follows a typical 3-step procedure about how to pose a problem. When you pose a problem in your introduction paragraph, you do 3 things. First, you offer shared context. You offer background information. And this background information should be shared, which means common. Everybody, in theory, should know it. Such as, just like, we know 1 + 1 is equal to 2. Background knowledge, shared knowledge. And then pose the problem. And then, in the end, you offer a solution. Introduction part most generally involves these 3 parts. background information, shared context, then problem, then solution, or main point. Sometimes solution, main point, or claim, they're replaceable. Okay, come back, let's revisit 1B again. The first sentence is offering context, historical background or background knowledge. This is what the first sentence is doing. And from the second sentence on until the penultimate sentence, we are given the problem. We have been posed as readers. We have been given a problem, perhaps a series of problems. And the yellow part, the last sentence, a solution is offered by the author. So, 3-step typical trilogy build-up of an introduction paragraph. Okay, let's talk about these 3 steps one by one, respectively. For the first part, when we offer a shared context, what do we mean? What do we do? What do we do? In 1B, what do they do? The shared context is roughly here. Take a look. Alcohol has been a bigger part of college life for hundreds of years. The author is trying as if to make this claim, stated this as a matter of fact. It's not his personal opinion. Has been for hundreds of years. This should be known, broadly known by the general public. He's putting his information out like this, in this way. Okay? From football weekends to fraternity parties, college students drink and often drink hard again. It seems the author is trying to just put across general background knowledge. There is not much personal opinion involved in here. Just some background, historical, general knowledge. Okay? So, shared context refers to what? What does it refer to? Refer to historical background. Or it could be, a recent event or common belief as well. All the things or anything that the author wants to remind the readers of what? Of what the readers have already known, have already been stored in their memory bank. They have already known or have experienced. Well, knowledge, we know, knowledge does not only mean knowledge about things. There are also knowledge about feelings, about emotions. We also call them knowledge, okay? Already accept. Sometimes, even though we don't know that beforehand, but as soon as we hear about it, we accept it as a matter of fact, or as a matter of logic, or as a matter of common sense. Recent event and common belief. What does event mean? Here's an example about event. Event. Take a look. What does event involve? A recent state university survey shows that blah, 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 blah. A fact that should surprise no one. Shared context. Something took place. Something happened before. This is called event, right? That thing that happened in here is the survey, okay? State survey. State university survey. Belief. If you want to offer some belief, then it better be denoted by such words as the verb believe itself. Most students believe. Most students think. Most students are aware of. This, as an experienced writer, You should mimic this. Experienced writers do this all the time. In the very beginning, they offer some background knowledge. They offer some context. They offer shared knowledge, experience, and belief, and so on and so forth. And then they take a turn. They make a U-turn, actually, by revoking that seemingly, that previously taken for granted belief, by offering some new points, new claims that are not only totally different, but sometimes contradictory. A lot of times contradictory, because the writer always intend to put across opinions, concepts that are challenging. That's the gist. That's the main purpose of making serious writing. To be always challenging, to be always. Part 2, stating the problem. After offering the shared context, the background historical knowledge, then we fire the problem. We pose the problem by signpost words. The signpost word here are but or however. They're the typical ones. Or sometimes it can be nevertheless, or on the contrary, so on and so forth. But and however, they're the most common ones. Take a longer look at this paragraph again, 1b. After shared context, after background information, but a kind of drinking known as binge drinking is spreading throughout colleges and universities. This is the challenging part that the author wants to contrast the common background, the historical information with this new type of drinking, the so-called binge drinking. Okay, for stating the problem part, it has two component parts. It has two steps too. First part for posing the problem, for the first part of posing a problem, you need to state the condition or the situation. Or simply put, what the trouble is. And for the second part, of course, you basically need to let people know the negative effects or the costs of the problem. If the problem is untreated, if the problem is free to go on its own course, then we have this, that, and that as the negative consequences we are going to face. So when you pose a problem, when you raise a problem, always remember these two parts. First, with condition, then with the cost. With these two parts, you create a problem. Take a look at 1b again. Of course, this part is the problem posing part. Take a look at the condition part and the cost part. From here on, but a kind of drinking, blah, 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 until, or even to pass out. This is the condition. What binging involves. Events, actions, or experiences, what such phenomena and actions are involved in binge drinking. This is about condition. The sentence on condition. And from so what? From this part on, binging, until the very end, the cost, or in here, the negative consequences of drinking so heavily is mentioned. Take a look at the words harm, of course harmless. But more important words are these words, the costs, kills, injuries. Okay, 2 steps. Let's come back, let's go over this 2 stages, 2 parts while you are posing problem. The first part is offering conditions or situations, the description of a trouble, let's call it, the description of the trouble. And the second part about posing a problem is the mention of the unacceptable, intolerable, unbearable consequences if that condition, that situation, that problem is free to evolve. This is the components of that problem posing section. And now, there are two kinds of problems. Sometimes problems can be practical, and sometimes problems can be conceptual. For practical problems, it's easy. We talk about, for example, air pollution. They're practical, they are substantial, right? We talk about smokes, we talk about this thing and that thing. They exist in nature, in human society. They are tangible. We can see them, feel them directly with our sensory organs, with our eyes, with our nose, with our skin, and so on and so forth. These are tangible, practical problems. And the other type of problem is conceptual. Basically, we think about them. They're also objects. The problem, they're objective too, but they're not tangible. They do not have a substantial form, an exact solid form in nature, in the reality. They exist only in our mental realm, in our mental world. We can think about them, deliberate on them. Basically, we are dealing with concepts and ideas internally, okay, in our skull, in our brain. For a problem, a practical one, a practical problem, it demands what? It demands action as its solution. The students have a drinking problem. So in the solution part, we want some action to be taken, or some action not to be taken. Okay? For conceptual problems, since they're intangible, they only exist in our mental world, intellectual realm, it only demands a change in understanding, a conceptual change. When we're dealing practical problems, first, when we state the condition, the situation, then we state the cost and the negative consequences. They should follow the same pattern as we mentioned previously, the two component parts for posing problems. But remember, for practical problems, they involve palpable cost. If you drink, you may die of, alcohol poisoning. You may die of poisoning. You may injure yourself in an accident. These are palpable costs. You can touch them, you can see them, feel them. Okay? So thusly, you need, in order to avoid these unpalatable costs and consequences, you must make behavioral changes. You must act differently. For conceptual problems, basically, it's about thinking what we should think and what should not think. And the conceptual problems, they are of a different sort and involves different problems. Since the bell has rung, we'll leave this part to the next session.